Guardians, you attended a talk last year at the beginning of 5th year, and where a lot of this information was I gave to you, but this year is going to make a lot more sense to you, hopefully. I'm going to draw your attention to the school website, where a lot of the information that I'm going to give this evening will be on the school website. So I'll just give you a quick demonstration. If Mr. Kelly just make sure that I'm able to be seen. On the school website is a guidance page. Yeah. And on the guidance section, you'll see here a guide to the Leaving Certificate, applying to SUSI for the SUSI grant. All that information that you require this year is on that in various PowerPoints and so on. The guide to the Leaving Certificate for students, parents and guardians has been updated for the website as we speak. So hopefully by tomorrow, what I give you this evening will be up on the website. Everything that I'm doing this evening, the students will be getting this information in class also. I have a little bit of a disclaimer here at the bottom, and it's really not for me. It's really just to let you know that all the information I'm giving you this evening is correct as of tonight. But at any stage, and particularly as we found out with COVID-19 this year, this information can change at any stage. And daily, the universities are looking at what they have to offer students, and they're changing their entry requirements as they're going along. So it's very important that students and yourselves keep an eye on various websites and so on. I'm really encouraging our students. I'm not telling them they have to set up a Twitter account, but I'm encouraging students and I'm encouraging yourselves, if you could please, if you have a Twitter account, to follow at OLSS Guidance. Anything I put up there, 99.9% of the time, is information for you as parents and guardians and for our students. So for example, this morning's tweet was for our current 6th years, particularly those who are applying to UCAS to study in Northern Ireland, England, Scotland or Wales. And the information for this week is from UCAS to show them how to do personal statements. And for the last couple of weeks, I've been working with 6th years on helping them put together a personal statement. And that's all students, whether they're applying to UCAS or not. It's an important part of their CV that they're able to write a piece about themselves. So if you could all, I expect to see thousands of followers tomorrow. I'm hoping to become an influencer, somebody told me. The information, as I said already, can change at any time. Everybody should keep up to date through various websites and college open days. I'll just say a little bit about open days. I'm encouraging, as I did last year, and it was great to see so many 5th years, when they were 5th years last year, attend open days. A lot of open days are on at the weekend. They don't all.
Hello, Mr. Geraghty, can you hear? Apologies, everyone. I'm just trying to contact Mr. Geraghty there to see if his Wi-Fi is working. So if you just bear with us for a couple of minutes, and hopefully we'll have Mr. Geraghty back on screen. Just bear with me 1 minute.
Hello.
Yep, you're back now.
I'm back now. I have no idea what happened there. We still good?
Yep, very good. Yep.
Okay, so it's very important, saying about open days, it's very hard to know if they're going to run live this year. Some of them are, and there are a lot of events happening that students didn't go to. What I'm encouraging is that students let me know through an email from parents giving them permission to take the day off school to those open days. But I am encouraging parents and guardians to also go to those open days. I've encouraged all the students to also make an appointment with me, and they do that through email rather than crowding around my office and so on. I'm throwing up here on the screen lots of websites that are really important, and I've gone through those websites with the students, but I encourage you, if you log on to the school website and download this PowerPoint for yourselves, to have a look at the various websites, particularly the third one there, qualifax.ie, which is really important, and it is basically a database of every college course in the Republic of Ireland, that you can see the entry requirements and what they're going to actually study, and also have contacts to contact the head of the department in each of those courses. There are lots of other websites there that give information for students that are looking at trying to figure out what it is they want to do when they leave school. I'll highlight studentfinance.ie and susie.ie. So students can apply for a student grant, which, if you're not familiar with it, in a very short description, if your family income is below a certain figure, you may be entitled to have your college fees paid for, as well as receiving what they call a maintenance grant every month to help cover the costs of staying in accommodation and paying for college. It's not a simple yes or no whether you'll get it or not. It may be a case of yes, but only some of it. I will work through how to apply for the SUSI grant with the students around coming up to the Easter break. The SUSI doesn't generally open till around April. They never really set a date for an opening, and they've become quite flexible in recent times about closing dates. But what I would say to you is that the sooner you get your application form in for a SUSI grant, the quicker they will deal with it. So they deal with it on a first come, first served basis. And what I mean by that is they deal with the applications on a first come, first served basis. So the later you leave it, the later you will get your grant if you're entitled to a grant. You'll also see here, I'm highlighting this section here, which is accesscollege.ie, and there are two schemes, the HERE scheme and the DARE scheme. The HERE scheme, again, is based on family income, and if your family income is below a certain figure, your son or daughter may be entitled to get points off their course. I'll talk later to the students on a one-to-one basis about it, and also this scheme here, the disability access through to education. If your son or daughter has a learning difficulty, any sort of disability, including long-term illness or mental health challenges, they may be entitled to, again, have points taken off their course. And I can talk to students individually about that. In all these cases, obviously it's quite difficult to answer a load of questions tonight online, and rather than that, I'd encourage parents to contact the school by giving the office a ring, and I'd quite happily meet with parents and guardians, sit down and talk about their child's individual needs. I've also put a PowerPoint up here that, again, you can access online on the school website, that lists off quite a number of scholarship information. Generally, the easiest way to explain scholarships to students is to say to them, you've picked your college, you've picked the course that you want to do, then you need to go and research on their websites or come and talk to me about the scholarship opportunities at these colleges and universities. And it's not just about sport. There's academic scholarships, there's community leadership scholarships. You'll see down here, the Naughton Foundation is for students who are applying for science, technology, engineering or maths courses and are high achievers. They too can be recognised through scholarship. This website here, Careers Portal, will bring you to a link and to a website that lists of as many scholarships as are available. Again, I'd be very happy to talk to any parent about the possibility of their son or daughter getting a scholarship through appointment. It's better to do these things face to face. A little bit on homework and study. There's a massive difference between homework and study. Homework is something that you do for the teacher over the coming days and weeks, and study is for your exams. And the million-dollar question is, how long do I study for? And I always start, well, where are you studying? Should be a warm ventilated room, a quiet place. Music is distracting. As much as some like to say, music helps me relax, it really does depend on the music. And unless your son or daughter is listening to very soft, quiet, classical music, after that, it just becomes distracting. How long? Everyone is different. The important thing is to start immediately and start off slow and short. If you were to take one topic for 1 hour each evening starting this week, and then build it up over time, for example, 1 hour this week, and then add half an hour every week after that, so that by the midterm break, you're up to approximately 3 hours each evening. But again, that depends on the person and the workload that they have. But I will stress that Saturday and Sunday are days of the week, and they are the perfect time to get a lot of study done. I did last year work with, when they were 5th years, on study timetables now to organise their study time, and we'll be doing that again with them over the coming weeks. I will stress to you as parents and guardians, as I have done always to the students, the do's and don'ts. So I encourage all of the students to treat themselves as individuals, that they are not their cousin, they are not their brother or sister or neighbour who got 625 points and is the best student in the country, the #1 student in the country. They are not them. They are their own individual with their own dreams for themselves and wishes for themselves. Don't compare yourself to others, but do make decisions. And they're your decisions as young people and as students of Our Ladies. They're decisions that we will help give you the information, but they have to make decisions for themselves. And most importantly, that they get a good night's sleep. Just to explain how this whole college system works, currently the students are in school. One option when they leave school is to go to a College of Further Education, also known as a PLC, an example being Monaghan Institute and Monaghan Cavan Institute in Cavan, O'Fee College in Dundalk, and quite a number more. If they complete a year in that course, they may then go on to higher education institutions like DKIT, like DCU, Trinity College, and so on. However, if they do well enough in their Leaving Cert, they can skip a PLC and go straight into higher education institutions. Students who are doing Leaving Cert Applied must go to a PLC first for a year, and then they can move on also to higher education institutions. There are lots of reasons why a student would go to a College of Further Education first. Not all of them have to do with points. Quite a number of students want to go here first to make sure that it is a course they want to do at higher education, that they're not ready for the demands of an honours degree. So there are lots of reasons, and these are very genuine, highly regarded courses. And I encourage all students and families to consider this as a very genuine option if it works for you. To give you a quick idea about what's available after school, as I said, higher education institutions like those listed. And in order to get into those, you need the Leaving Certificate established, which is what most students are doing. The other students are doing Leaving Cert Applied. And the other way to get in is to get a certificate from a PLC or College of Further Education. In order to get into one of those colleges of further education, you must have the Leaving Cert established or Leaving Cert Applied. So basically, you can see that the only difference between Leaving Cert established and Leaving Cert Applied in general terms is that you must go here first. The other option is an apprenticeship, and this is constantly under review. And apprenticeships are not just your traditional apprenticeships like mechanics, carpentry, and so on. While they are still there, you can now get apprenticeships in IT, working for computer companies while training and also going to college at the same time. You can get it in accountancy, architectural technology, finance, and so on. There are quite a number of options of apprenticeships available, and if you look at the websites that I had up on the screen earlier on, you can see there are a number of apprenticeship websites that I've listed there. The minimum for an apprenticeship, the traditional apprenticeships, as I explained last year, is 16 years of age with a junior cert and a leaving cert, but very few companies are taking anyone on these days who just have a junior cert and who are 16. You must have the leaving certificate for most companies and be 18 years of age, because you are entering into an adult world and very few companies want to take on an under 18. Then you have the options of going for work, straight into training with large supermarket chains, public service, the banks and the Gardaí. Very few people get into the Guards these days without having gone to college first. This is the National Framework of Qualifications. So you'll hear a lot about this year, that your son or daughter are applying for a level 5, 6, 7 or 8. Level 4 is the leaving certificate. Level 5 is when you do 1 year at a PLC. This is generally speaking, I don't overcomplicate it. Level 6 is if you do 2 years in a PLC or College of Further Education. However, some higher education institutions offer level 6s as well. Level 7 is an ordinary degree and level 8 is an honours degree. And your son or daughter can do the leaving cert, do well in the leaving cert and go straight into studying for a level 8 honours degree. So you'll hear a lot about that this year. I encourage all students doing Leaving Cert Established that they fill in the CAO form, that they apply for everything possible, level 6s, 7s and 8s, to fill up the form. And I'll talk a little bit about the CAO form shortly. When you're looking at colleges, all colleges, the first thing you need to check is that you have what's called the minimum entry requirements. In other words, that you have the right subjects, that you're aiming for the correct grades. You can have all the points in the world, but if you don't have the minimum subjects to get into a course, you won't be getting into that course. So the best example I can give is primary school teaching. You can have 600 points in your leaving cert and be way above the entry requirements for primary teaching. But if you do not have 60% and higher level Irish, you're not getting into the course. So that's what's called the minimum entry requirements. Checking the points each year will only give you a rough idea. Points change every year. And this year is a huge example about how points change based on demand and based on results. And I've said this to the students in class. Have a look at what the points were this year, but generally speaking, they are irrelevant to what the points will be for them next year. They won't know what the points are until 2 days after their Leaving Cert results come out. So you look back over the points over the last number of years and they give you a general idea about where you need to be, roughly speaking, but they are not a guide to exactly what each student needs next year. PLCs do not require points. They have minimum entry requirements and a lot of the colleges will call them for interview. Currently, Monaghan Institute don't call for interview or Cavan Institute, but most other PLCs do. How am I doing, Mr. Kelly? You can still hear me.
I can still hear you, Mr. Garrity. You're doing brilliant.
Great, thank you. Again, it's very important that you check the websites as you're going along. I'm going to skip through these slides because I've explained an awful lot of what are on these slides, but it's important for yourselves to have a look over them at your leisure. I'm going to quickly talk about the CAO. The CAO stands for the Central Applications Office. For those of you who haven't been through this system before, it is an actual office based in Galway. And all the CAO do is they administer the forms that come in. They just look after the information as it comes in, and then they share that information with the universities and the colleges. They don't make decisions on whether students get into college or not. They just process the information as it comes in. Students getting into a college is solely based on the grades they get in their Leaving Cert and the points they get. When the results go into a college, every student that applies for that course is ranked based on their results, from the best student who applied for that course down to the student with the least amount of points. And if, for example, a course is 25 places, then the best 25 places get a place on that course. And as I've explained to the students over and over again, if you see a course, for example, that has 450 points advertised as the points to get into that course, that simply means that the last person to get a seat on that course that year had 450 points. Everyone else above them on the list had possibly more points than 450 points. And when you hear students saying that they missed out on a place on a course by 1 point or 2 points, technically it's not that they missed out on the course by 1 or 2 points, it's they missed out on a seat. They missed out on the last seat because the person ahead of them were 2 points ahead of them, and there are no more seats on the course. That's why, sadly, the CAO system, it's a competition, and the best results get a seat on the course. All you can say to the students is, you just work as hard as you can to get the best Leaving Cert results you can get. After that, the points are out of your control. The CAO application forms are available on cao.ie, and they will open around November, and students can start applying for that in November. There is a fee charged. Applications to PLCs, I stress, are not on the CAO form. If you want to apply for a PLC like Monaghan Institute and so on, you go directly to Monaghan Institute's website and fill in their application form. In relation to the CAO form, I will show each student how to fill in the form, but I will not fill in the form for them. It's very important that each student takes responsibility for their form. I will help them through the process, but I won't have anything to do with their form. The closing date for the CAO application is the 1st of February. However, students do have right up to the 1st of July to change their mind. So they can take out a course and add one in, but they must have an application in by the 1st of February at 5:15 p.m. Late applications can be put in by the 1st of May, but please don't get caught up in that system of late applications, because some courses will not accept the late application. What I stress is, if you think you know what you want to do, fill it in by the 1st of February at 5:15, and then right up to the 1st of July, you can change your mind. Rather than read out all of this, I'll explain. The CAO form works on what they call a order of preference. So you can apply for 10 level 8, that's 10 honours degree courses, and 10 level 6 and 7 courses on the CAO form. You must tell the CAO what is your favourite course. And if your favourite course is, let's say, primary teaching in St. Pat's DCU, you must place that at number 1. There is no system to be played with the CAO form. And you'll hear many rumours and to work out equations and all of this, that it's something complicated. It's not. It is very simply order of preference. Because when the grades come out and the Leaving Cert results come out, the CAO will simply ask the question, how many points did your son or daughter get? And if the answer is 500 points, they will go, okay, what is their number 1 choice? Do they have the points for that at number 1? Yes, then offer them that place. Do they have the points for number 1? No. Then what is their number 2 choice? And so on down the list. So it's really, really important that you sit down with your son and daughter and work out what are their top 10 courses, and then put them in order of preference. This is the grading system, if you're not familiar with it already. So the grades are marked 1 to 8. So you're either doing higher level H or ordinary level O. So if you get between 90 and 100%, then you're either a H1 or an O1, and so on down to H8 and O8. This is the point system, and it seems like quite a very unfair point system. For a H1, you get 100 points, and for an O1, you get 56 points. So obviously, the more higher level subjects you're doing, the better in terms of getting more points. I have added in a slide here that has a link straight to a video section on the CAO form or on the CAO website. And in that page, you will see videos that explain how to fill in the form, CAO form, and everything to do with the CAO process. So I would encourage you as parents and guardians to have a look at that and have a look at each of those videos. I'll mention very briefly UCAS. For the last 2 weeks, all of the students have been looking at the UCAS form and have registered with the UCAS website. Not all students will be applying for UCAS. And last Wednesday, we had our first after school class for those students, and we'll continue with that this week. UCAS is the application system for England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Each of those regions and each of the colleges in those regions have very different entry requirements and so on. And back in March and April, I would have held Zoom classes for those students who are currently in 6th year who are interested in applying for UCAS. So they've been working on this for quite a while. I would encourage you to talk to your sons and daughters rather than me going into the full details of it this evening. But I would encourage you to have a chat with them about whether they're applying to the UCAS system, because that UCAS system is now open, and generally speaking, it will close on the 15th of January. For some courses, will close on the 15th of October, that's next month. So it's very important that you talk to your sons and daughters who are looking at that and asking them, are they sure about their closing date for their course and their college? And if you're not sure, to give the school a ring and ask to speak with me, and I can go through it with you. I've mentioned already the different supports, grants and scholarships. I have a link there, again, as I mentioned earlier on, to a page that will bring up all of the scholarships that are available. And the closing date for scholarships vary, and the scholarships process varies depending on the college that you're applying to. So it's very important from now that students look at the scholarships available to them. Even up to this evening, we're hearing about students who are only receiving their scholarships now. It's great news, but that will show you the length and the various closing dates for the scholarships that are happening. I've put in some information about financial supports. Quite often, going to college can be a huge financial burden for people, and that's quite understandable, but there are supports out there, and I would encourage you to come and talk to me also to see if I can point you in the right direction about getting different supports. I mentioned the HERE scheme earlier on. I put in the information there about family income, but that family income depends on the number of children that are living in your house, so that varies as well. And also the number of children you have already in college. If you have more children in college, then the more earnings you're allowed to earn, and which can make it easier to get into these schemes as well as the grant. Again, this is a lot of information that I'm throwing out this evening. This is just to flag it for you so that you can contact me and ask me questions directly related to your son and your daughter. There aren't only just the HERE scheme. Some of the universities out there and colleges have their own schemes. You'll see here, I've put some examples up. The Trinity Access Programme is available there, and the DCU Access Scheme is there also. I might highlight that if you've been accepted onto the HERE scheme or the DARE scheme, that also is not just about points. The idea of those schemes is to make sure that when your son and daughter arrives at college, that they have supports there to make sure that they complete college, and that's study assistance, counselling assistance, and so on. There are a lot of supports also coming into the Leaving Cert and at college for young people with special needs or additional needs. I might also highlight students who are exempt from Irish or a third language. For a lot of NUI colleges, that's National University of Ireland, like Maynooth University, UCD, UCC, Galway University, they all for a lot of their courses require 3 languages to get in. However, students born outside of the Republic of Ireland may be exempt from that, and also students with a disability may be exempt from that also. And I'll discuss that with your sons or daughters, but also again, don't be afraid to ask me to confirm. There are forms that need to be filled in for that. Generally, they have to be filled in by next summer. I've put in a slide on the important closing dates and so on, so you can have a look at that also. I put in some important phone numbers for you as well, and various websites and links and contact numbers, and up to quite recently, they were all up to date. The last couple of slides, this is very important because many of you as parents and guardians may not have thought of this already, and your sons and daughters may not have hit them, but I have been mentioning it to them last week or two, that in about 11 months' time, they will be moving out of home. And that can be difficult to hear as a parent and guardian, and also to hear as a student. So I've put up some links to websites that help find student and accommodation. You'll see here qualifax.ie, that's a link to all of the college websites that have campus accommodation. daft.ie is a website that shows you student accommodation close to your son or daughter's colleges. It's very important over the coming weeks and months up to Christmas that students keep an eye on that, but each college have their own closing dates for accommodation on campus, so it's very important you keep an eye on that. And they have all various closing dates for applying to get on campus. Currently, at the moment, it's all up in the air. Is it worth getting student accommodation on campus or student accommodation with so many classes going online? So that's important to bear in mind as well before you go off booking accommodation. I did put up a tweet early last week, if you want to have a look at that, showing the new Book of Rights for students as student renters, and also their responsibilities. I've also a website here because some students will commute to college, so you'll find the contact details there of local bus services that head directly to various universities and so on. Again, a lot of this is up in the air because of the current situation with COVID-19. The last thing I want to say is to remind you that all of us are partners in this process over the next year, so please get in touch and don't be afraid to pick up the phone and make a call to the school to book your own appointments. If it suits you better to meet me in the evening, I'm quite happy to do that. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Kelly.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Garrity, for a very comprehensive, informative presentation. Okay, that's us, folks. Just thank you all once again for logging in, and there's no point in taking questions now because I suppose people's questions will be individual and specific to them. So as Mr. Garrity would have mentioned at the start, if anybody has any queries or any concerns about any aspects of the presentation, or indeed about any aspect of the return to school or the plans for the year ahead, listen, please pick up the phone, contact us at the school office, and you can arrange to speak to either Mr. Garrity, any member of the senior management team, middle management team, etc. Thank you all once again for attending, for your continued support, and hopefully you and your families take care and stay safe in the weeks ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.